Okay, stock market technical analysis. Lots of movement in the market, so I'm going to go through kind of the top components, the major charts. We're looking for trade ideas and opportunity here in the future. So if you guys are finding value, drop me a thumbs up. If you're interested in the private member group, I've been posting a lot of trade ideas in there in this high volatility period. Link in the description below on that one. Let's get started. Triple Q's, big down day today. And what stands out to me as of right now is a head and shoulders top pattern. We've got a lot of topping sticks in the market, a lot of topping patterns. I want to kind of show it. It's just kind of screaming to me, but in general, here's what I see on the daily chart now. We've got a right shoulder ahead, and then today's price action with the big gap up on the open. That's a right shoulder. Sorry, we have a left head and a right shoulder. So that is a head and shoulders topping pattern. Not my favorite pattern, but what you want to do is look at these. You look for these at the end of extended uptrends. That's where you really want to look for these things. A lot of people kind of look for them in between, but really I'm looking for it at the end of an extended uptrend, and that's clearly an extended uptrend. So that is a topping pattern. The projected target is for this pattern. You take the head, go down to the neckline, and then at the point of the breakdown, wherever that comes at, would give you the projected measured target. And you can see it's basically down here at the 200-day moving average on the on triple Qs. So that's the projected target. If we take out the lows, I really see it kind of as a swift move down to that 200-day moving average. If we take out the lows right here of 589.25, we'll call it 589. You take that out, you get a daily close below there, and you're gonna probably have a swift move down. I don't know if I'm leaning that way. We might hold this low because this is kind of that former low. They might hold it here for a little while. We might get a little bounce and then come back down here in the future and take that out. That's the way I'm kind of leaning right now, is we're going to kind of have a small bounce over the next few days. Not really I don't see a large bounce. I see just more of kind of treading water and maybe a slight float higher from here. But if we don't get that, because at the end of the day, a break below the lows and a daily close should be a sell signal, which would indicate we're going to have a pretty quick move down to the 200 days. So whether we bounce here and hold and then break in the future, or if we just break now, it still stands. I think we're heading lower. All right. And that comes from the weekly chart. Let me flip over to the weekly. On the weekly chart, pointed this out. I've been talking about it for a few weeks now. Bearish engulfing candle on the weekly. That's a topping stick. You look for that at the end of extended uptrends to give you an indication of a top, and we have that. And so far, that's been the top. So that's why I have this line marked out right here, 636, because a weekly close above that would negate this as a top. But we don't have a weekly close above it. We have only selling since we saw that topping stick. So regardless of what happens in the earnings report and the overnight session, it's really about what happens during the main trading session. So let's go over to NVIDIA. NVIDIA daily, all right? In the after hours, they gapped this thing up. They ran it up and gapped it higher. But again, after hours is thinly traded. It's bots and it's algos and it's thinly traded. You don't have large institutions moving billions of dollars in the after hours. What they do is they position in the regular session when there's liquidity. And what they were doing today is they were selling. All right, we gapped up and they used that gap up and all the liquidity there on that gap up of retail basically jumping into buy. They used that liquidity to sell into, to exit their positions. And that's what's happened. So NVIDIA, pretty sharp sell today. We'll see where we close today. A break below 179.85, and we should head down to the bottom of the range that I have, this sideways range, which is about 164.20. And honestly, I think you get the momentum going to the downside like that with this big false breakout and the negative divergence that's been in play for quite a while. I mean, I can just extend it out. I think you're probably going to, I don't think you're going to hold there too long. I think you go right down to the 200s, slice through the 200s just briefly, and then recover, and then you get some sort of a bounce around the 200s. Bulls and algos alike should try to buy the 200s, and so I'd expect at least a reaction, a bounce, most likely there. But that's what I have on NVIDIA. Amazon, sell signal today. You can see on the daily chart, support. All right, there's support, and there's a break of support. Now, the day's not over. We got about an hour and a half left, so they could recover it. But, you know, it's broken as of right now. That's a sell signal. Most likely with the way the market's been trading, I think that's going to stick. Google, no technical change on this one. There's no technical change. So this is still bullish. You know, this is still holding a bullish trend. Still holding support. I don't see any technical change. Meta, again, Meta's been lights out for a while. The bulls have been trapped. We talked about this. There was this big sideways trading range and this big gap down, which trapped the bulls. So trapped bulls become panic sellers. And that's what we've seen so far. This thing is just continuing to roll over as these bulls who were trapped in here are essentially panic selling. And that should increase. The more we go down, the more unwinding of leverage and the more panic selling that should show up. So, yeah, I see lower prices there on that one. Probably down to this next level of support. Pretty decent support down here at 498, call it 500. Microsoft, break of support. All right, so there you go. There's this big sideways trading range. Same. This chart now looks the same as Meta. Now, it didn't necessarily gap down, but it impulsively sold down today. And all the people who haven't bailed yet, who are in this is stops getting hit. Longs have stops here, and shorts see that it's a break of support. So that is a sell signal in Microsoft. And anybody who hasn't stopped out, the lower we go, the more pressure it puts on the bulls to panic sell. So Microsoft has a sell signal, and that's a big one right there. Apple starting to crack. You'll see here an uptrend line on Apple. We have negative divergence. And if I zoom in, you can see starting to break. Not quite definitive yet. I mean, it's not impulsive selling yet. They might recover it. We'll see. But that is a break as of now. So where do we close the day? I think you got to take out these lows right here, really, for like a real definitive sell signal. You can see we've got this let me grab my tool. We got this little sideways pattern here. You take that out right there, call it 266, take that out, and that should be the sell signal in Apple. And I mean, Apple and Microsoft, that's huge, if you get those. So, I mean, you don't really need much else. I've already went through NVIDIA. AVGO, I have an uptrend line on this one. I've kind of adjusted it a little bit because I was really trying to line it up with the price action I saw today. But you have this uptrend line, break, back test, selling. So to me, this one looks like it's heading lower. A definitive sell signal on AVGO, you got to take out these lows right here, 328.73. Take that out, and it should be lights out for AVGO. You go down, you'll fill the gap, you'll rally, and then you'll continue lower. AMD, again, taking out support. We'll see where we close the day, but this, support's basically 215. You take that out, and it will be a sell signal. And it looks like it's going to do it, to be honest. And it should be a pretty swift drop right down to the gap fill, 170.52. So as far as I can tell, the market's topped. It's basically, we've gotten large sell signals on the weekly chart, which is not just, that is not going to be just like a little dip by the dip buyers will step in, but they'll continue to get burned. So that's how I view it. Like we'll fall, then the dip buyers will step in, we'll rally, and then they'll get burned. And that'll happen a few times, and then as that starts to play out, you'll start to see the dip buyers won't be showing up, and you'll start to see more and more heavy selling, eventually leading to kind of panic selling, and then that'll be over. The downside will be over. So go back to the triple Qs. If I look at the daily chart, I mean, this is a big level right here. Let me kind of adjust that slightly. Right there in blue. And you can see it's right about the 200-day moving average right there. So that's where I think we're heading in the near term pretty quickly. Once we take out the lows from today, then we should be a pretty swift drop over a period of maybe a couple weeks down to that 200-day moving average. And again, I think you undercut it a little bit, hit that support, and then the bulls will step in. That's my target. That's my number one target for right now on a trend trade or a swing trade. And it is a drop on triple Qs of about down there about 8%, 8.5% down on the triple Qs. And if you really look at it, I mean, if you go back, if we end up there towards the end of the year, and you look at the where we were at the beginning of the year, we were basically right in this area at the beginning of the year. If we close right on that level at the end of the year, there will have been no gains for the year, 0 gains. Across, just on a year-over-year basis. Now, obviously, if you bought the lows here, like I was buying the lows, I didn't hold it all the way up, but I closed my longs out right there on that big, huge up day. But the those gains will have been wiped out, at least in long-term trading accounts and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think that's maybe what's going to happen. It's kind of hard to say definitively, but that's what I see. And we'll go through some of these other trades I've talked about. Palantir, we have just a clear rejection off resistance. So this was former support. It's about 170, 125. All right, and we're below, and they tried to recover it. Little false recovery, and then boom, impulsive rejection. So you're heading lower most likely in this one over time. We might bounce off of the current levels. It's down 4.5%. You might get a little bit of a bounce over the next day or two, but clear rejection, and so ultimately lower. All right, most likely lower down to the 200s. Next support level is about 145-ish, or no, it's 147.30, right in there. Robinhood, another one I've talked about. Again, we've been on this since we got the sell signal here. That's your break of trend. So we had this bearish rising wedge. I got a lot of people saying, oh, it doesn't matter, and I only come out and talk about things when they're down. And that was on a day like right here when we had broke trend and there was a sell signal. I put out a video saying, okay, we broke trend. This is a sell signal. I think we're going to trend lower. This is a swing trade. And that's when I get all the haters that come out, because all they see is they see this, but they don't see this until they're down here, and then they say, oh, well, the clock's right twice a day or something. That's how they kind of view it. But I'm trying to anticipate this when we're down here, when we're way up here, because that's where the money's made, right? So down 8.5% today on this one, and breaking support at 117.57 and heading down to the next level of support, 94, 95-ish, we'll call it. And that's it. That's really it. 95 is where you'll probably get a reaction. And this one to me looks like it's working its way down to the major trend line and my target of about $67. That's the widest part of the wedge. That's right here. That's your major target, the point of the breakdown. And again, it's right there. So we're, almost halfway there. Not quite, but we're getting there. So yeah. Someone asked me to cover GE. This one's broken trend as well, and it is below a lot of the moving averages. We have the 200-day simple moving average down here, so I'd say that's where you're heading. You got some support right there at 281.75, but the uptrend line, this kind of short-term uptrend line, that's been broken now. So you can see it broke, back tested, rejection. So it should head lower, and similar to triple Qs, you can kind of see we have these recent lows here on October 10th. Triple Qs, that's the same low there on the triple Qs. So once that's taken out, should be lights out for this one as well. Financials, XLF. The major thing I'm looking for is a takeout of the lows today, right there, 51.20, and the 200-day moving average. You take those out and the lights out for the financials. And you can see it's kind of the same pattern that we've seen in like Meta, big sideways shelf, big trading range where we're not moving higher, but we're not really going down. We're just kind of drifting sideways, and that brings in a lot of bulls. But the momentum tells me that the bulls are going to get trapped. All right, negative divergence has been building and building and building. And what happens is it builds for a while, we continue to drift sideways, and then one day, probably not too long from now, we gap down here, and everybody who bought anywhere in here, all the volume here, they're now underwater. All right? And the stops that everybody has that are longs, they start to get hit, short sellers pile in. So sell signal to come on a break of basically today's lows. On a daily close, of course. Carvana, this is another one I really like because it's a high flyer. It's a momentum name. When the momentum dries up, these things usually just tank. And if you, you go back, this thing's likely going to fall like 80%. You can see here, this is what it does. It just runs straight up, and then when it breaks and the trend's finally broken, it falls. That fell 99%. Again, same kind of look, run straight up. Like this is, it's basically right about, you could mark it out there or even, there, something like that. But in general, that uptrend line's broken, drifting sideways, and we're just kind of starting to fall off the cliff. This is kind of the point. We still have dip buyers in here. They don't recognize that the trend is broken. So what will happen is, you start taking out the lows. I think that'll probably do the trick. 266. You start doing that, and it'll be all of a sudden people recognize that trend's done, and this thing will start to increase to the downside, bigger down days. And yeah, my target for this one, honestly, is right here, right there. It's 59. We'll call it 59. Lots of reactions for that one, for that level. That was big former resistance, and I think that's support now, or a decent sized support. So I'm looking for a drop from where we're at now of about 81% on that one. Big drop. Now it's going to take time. Again, it's not going to happen in a week. There's going to be up days. There's going to be strong up days. So that's how that's going to work, but it's going to continue to trend lower, in my opinion. And moving into where, just grabbing this stuff. Moving into where we're at now, we got to take out the 200-day moving average, which is here at about 301. Got to clear those out of the way, all right? And so little work to do for sure. And you can see we had a reaction low here, and we had a reaction low there. So for me, you take out those reaction lows, and it's obvious. That's the level where it's obvious to all that there's a downtrend in place. As of right now, it's not completely obvious, although I clearly see lower highs and lower lows. So it looks like a downtrend, but it'll be obvious to everyone once you take out the lows. So, but again, I want to be positioned before it's obvious to everyone. All right, when things are obvious to everyone, you don't get preferred pricing. You get preferred pricing when very few recognize, and it's in the turn when all of a sudden not very many people realize, and then everyone starts to realize. It's in that transition that the money is often made. So that's what I want to point out. Bitcoin, you can look at Coinbase. This is IBIT. It's another one. Bitcoin's it's pretty much toast right now. You can see here, same kind of look. You've got an uptrend line. This one was started back in January 2024, but you have an uptrend line. Trend's been broken, and it's rolling over. So if I look at Coinbase, you can see here, you have an uptrend line, broken, kind of a recovery. It's not the cleanest trend line, to be honest. I'd probably want to slightly adjust it, but clearly we've taken out, the trend, and you have negative divergence, a little bit right there. So, This one, now I'm not shorting this one. You're kind of near support. There's a gap to fill. You're close to gap entry. So I could see a bounce here. It's not objective to short. This thing's already down, from this back test, 40%. So not anything I'm interested in shorting. But I just want to kind of highlight that the momentum plays, the key momentum plays, Bitcoin, a lot of these kind of high flying ones, they're turning. They're starting to turn. Palantir's another one. Look at that. Or I might have already covered that actually. Yeah, I think I covered that already. So yeah, these are the big momentum plays that are the momentum shifting, and it's usually a quick rush for the exits. So at the end of the day, the way I'm trading this market from a longer term perspective, kind of a trend and swing trading perspective, is sell the rip. There's key levels where we will get bounces at, and we'll rally into resistance, and that will be opportunity to add or build a short position as we continue to trend lower. All right, and that's kind of what I'm looking at. Even the SPY, look at the SPY, big sell signal today, big break. All the moving averages have been taken out on the daily chart. So now, except for the 200, so now it's probably going to roll down to the 200, kind of leg down to the 200. And then, you're probably going to have a dip buyer stepping in there. But again, you take out those most recent lows on the SPY, you've got this low right here, right? You mark that out, and it's about, it's just lower, a little bit lower than today's lows. You can see they pretty much hit it, and they're holding it, and they're probably going to hold that today. And that's why I could see like a little bit of a bounce, maybe a head and shoulders pattern. You got a left shoulder, a head. You could put in a right shoulder, all right? That's completely possible. But remember, we were up here. This morning, the candle was up here. So, you kind of already put in the shoulder, or at least the top of it. All right, that's what I got. I'll get the video out, and I will catch you guys on the next one.